The ocean looks calm and inviting, but beneath the surface hides pure danger. Imagine wading into the waves when a 2,000-pound shark appears just inches away, its jaws wide open. These aren't movie scenes, they're real encounters caught on film. Here are the most terrifying shark attacks captured on camera. Number 10. Elio Cainstry, French island of Reunion. The residents of Reunion Island, a French territory in the Indian Ocean, would remember April 12th as a horrible day. It was the day Elio Cainstry was attacked and killed by a shark during a surfing activity. At approximately 9 in the morning, Cainstry, a 13-year-old surfing prodigy, set out paddling with his friends at the Buchan-Kennet beach on the island. During a coaching session, Cainstry, along with 7 other young surfers, were out in the water when a bull shark suddenly appeared. The shark attacked Cainstry, biting and flinging him around in the water as he thrashed in front of helpless friends and locals. The situation caused an uproar, and a boat was quickly sent out to the water where he was dragged down. When Cainstry was retrieved from the water moments later, the boy had suffered serious injuries to his right arm, his right leg, and his abdomen. Sadly, he was pronounced dead shortly after being brought ashore despite attempts from emergency services that responded swiftly. Those who were present during the attack were treated for trauma after the incident. Following the attack on Cainstry, reports surfaced on the number of shark attacks that had happened over the years on the island. The need for safety regulations in the area needed to be enforced, especially when the public discovered that there had been 16 shark attacks on the island in the past 4 years, of which 7 had been fatal. The most recent attack had been 2 months earlier, and it had caused the death of a 22-year-old girl who had been attacked while swimming. In the aftermath of the recent attack, the authorities of the island strengthened the safety practices by enforcing beach closures and expanding the shark culling program. Because of Canestry's death, anti-shark nets were installed at popular beaches to prevent people from swimming and getting attacked. In an Instagram post made recently, several people paid tribute to the late young surfer, with professional surfer Jeremy Flores calling him one of the best and upcoming surfers. Number 9. Mossel Bay Divers, South Africa. If you think Rick and his passengers were a bit reckless reeling in a shark that was caught by their hook onto the boat, then you're in for a treat. This team of explorers from America had the experience of a lifetime during their trip to South Africa. On the 30th of June 2015, a group of divers on a shark cage diving trip in Mossel Bay, South Africa, met a live great white shark in its territory. As the most famous breed and type of shark, the great white is famous for good reason. To begin with, it is the most carnivorous type of shark, with adult sharks growing up to 20 feet and weighing up to 2,000 pounds. But that is not the only reason why it stands out among its peers. As the divers descended into the crystal-clear blue waters, they were filled with excitement and nervous laughter. The ocean seemed calm at first, with only small fish darting past their cage. Then, out of nowhere, a massive dark shadow began to circle them, slow at first, like a predator sizing up its prey. The water pressure seemed to change as the creature's enormous presence drew closer, its lifeless black eyes staring straight into the cage. Suddenly, the shark lunged forward with a burst of terrifying speed, slamming its jaws into the metal bars. The impact sent vibrations through the entire structure, shaking the divers like a tin can in a storm. Bubbles filled the water as the crew above shouted, trying to pull the cage closer to the boat. The great white twisted and thrashed, its teeth grinding against the metal in a desperate attempt to break through. Inside the cage, Rye's breathing quickened, the sound of air escaping his regulator mixing with the metallic clanging of the attack. It was a scene straight out of a horror movie, but this was terrifyingly real. This was probably the thought going through the minds of these divers as an 11-foot great white shark sprung up on them out of the blue as they were shark diving. According to Rye, the diver in the cage when the shark attacked, the fish relentlessly tried to bite its way through the metal bars of the cage. Thankfully, the bars of the shark cage were sturdier than they could have imagined, as they withstood the enormous bite force of the shark, despite its many attempts. After several futile efforts, along with the screams of Rye's friend above, the shark swam away, but not without making a statement. After Rye resurfaced, the shark cage was examined, and they discovered that the round buoy attached to the side of the cage was literally bent in half. Some of the lining on the outer bars were bitten through as well, showing just how determined the shark was to get to its prey. Although no one was harmed during the attack, Rye and other people nearby would remember that day for the rest of their lives as the day they had a real-life Jaws experience. Number 8. Mick Fanning, South Africa. On the 19th of July 2015, a live broadcast of the finals of a surfing competition in South Africa turned into a live horror movie with an attack on one of the competitors. Mick Fanning, an Australian surfer, may have started his day with high hopes of winning the competition, but his day quickly turned into a race for survival as he became the food interest of a shark. Just 2 minutes into the finals at Jeffreys Bay, South Africa, as the cameras started rolling, Fanning was on his surfboard along with fellow finalist and competitor Julian Wilson, waiting for a wave when a large shadow appeared behind him. Within seconds, a great white shark approached the Australian surfer, who later reported feeling something tugging on his surf leash. Fanning turned to see the shark's fin and immediately began thrashing and punching to defend himself while attempting to put his surfboard between himself and the predator. Wilson, after noticing what was happening, also paddled toward Fanning to help. When the crowd saw how serious the situation was, a response team was quickly sent out to retrieve Fanning and Wilson, who were still in the water, and the shark was scared away. Remarkably, both Fanning and Wilson escaped physically unharmed, though the shark had bitten through Fanning's leash. The competition was immediately cancelled, with Fanning and Wilson agreeing to split the prize money. Over the years, the attack has become one of the most publicly witnessed shark encounters in history and significantly impacted Fanning, who took a brief hiatus from competitive surfing. The World Surf League subsequently enhanced its safety protocols, implementing drone surveillance and increasing water patrol personnel at competitions. Shortly after the attack, Fanning disclosed in an interview that he was just lucky to be alive and that he did not believe it was his time yet. The next week, Fanning later returned to surfing professionally, but has spoken openly about the psychological impact of the attack and his heightened awareness in the water. On the other hand, Wilson was more emotional about the attack, stating in a tear-filled interview that he was just happy to be alive. While the reactions of both surfers are a stark contrast to one another, the long-term effects are nothing anyone would wish to experience. Number 7. Matteo Mariotti, Australia. Everyone loves a good thrill every now and then, but sometimes the pursuit of a good thrilling moment can cost you pain, or in this case, a leg. This was the case of Matteo Mariotti, a 20-year-old student of marine biology in Australia, who was attacked by a shark. On December 8, 2023, Mariotti and a few friends decided to go snorkeling and have some fun. For Mariotti, however, it was deeper than that, as he had received the news of his grandfather's passing. The trip to 1770 Long Beach was Mariotti's way of clearing his mind and dealing with the loss. Unfortunately, it turned out to be an even bigger horror show for the young college student. Mere moments after he went into the water, Mariotti saw a shark, but it was already too late. The shark had already seen him, and by the time Mariotti noticed, it had clamped onto his leg. It dragged him underwater, holding on tightly to the boy's leg and preventing him from escaping. As Mariotti struggled to free his leg and himself from the water, the shark's teeth sunk deeper into his leg, causing more injury and more bleeding. Within seconds, the water around them was covered in blood, limiting Mariotti's vision. In fear and panic, Mariotti managed to turn on his GoPro camera to record the attack. While he fought and managed to free the top part of his leg, Mariotti screamed for help from his friends on the shore. One of his friends, Tommaso, heard him and jumped in the water to his rescue. When he was pulled out, a tourniquet was applied to the leg to stop the bleeding and control the wound. Within minutes after being pulled out, medical help arrived and Mariotti was taken to Bundaberg Hospital in Queensland. Sadly, Mariotti's leg could not be saved, leading to his leg being amputated below the knee. The video Mariotti made during his attack went viral on social media, earning him the support and sympathy of people, including amputees. When asked about it, Mariotti confessed to making the video as a goodbye message to his family, as he wasn't sure he was going to survive the attack. But while Mariotti lost a part of his leg during the attack, he gained a lot more afterwards, including almost $100,000 in donations from a GoFundMe set up for his treatment. Talk about a turnaround situation. Now it's time for today's topic. In February 2025, a tourist boat off the coast of Gansby, South Africa, known as the Great White Capital of the World, experienced one of the most terrifying shark encounters ever recorded. The chartered vessel Ocean Spirit, carrying 8 tourists and 2 guides, was observing a pod of dolphins when a massive great white shark, estimated at over 2,000 pounds, suddenly breached the surface and slammed into the bow. Witnesses described the shark's mouth as large enough to swallow a person whole. One passenger, 34-year-old American tourist David Larson from Florida, was tragically pulled overboard and never recovered. Local authorities confirmed the area had seen increased shark activity following abnormal water temperature changes. No real footage exists. This AI-generated image was created from survivor descriptions for media documentation. What do you think, a freak natural attack? Or are these apex predators becoming even more aggressive toward humans? Number 6. Stephen Robles, Manhattan. They say animals usually attack when they feel threatened, when they are hungry, or just to defend themselves. Unfortunately for Stephen Robles, a 50-year-old experienced swimmer from Lomita, California, he became the scapegoat to the temper of a shark trying to evade capture. On July 5, 2014, Robles was attacked by a juvenile great white shark while swimming near Manhattan Beach. The shark had been hooked by a fisherman on the pier, and was agitated after struggling on the line for about 40 minutes. As it thrashed violently in the water, witnesses recalled hearing the shark's desperate splashes echoing against the pier, its dorsal fins slicing the waves in panic. The fisherman, realizing he had hooked something far larger than intended, struggled to reel it in as curious onlookers gathered, unaware of the danger that was building beneath the surface. Meanwhile, Robles, swimming his usual route with calm strokes, had no idea he was heading straight toward chaos. Within seconds of crossing paths, the shark lunged, driven by pain and confusion, its jaws closing around his chest with terrifying force. The water turned red, and horrified beachgoers screamed as Robles fought for his life. In a surge of pure instinct, he shoved his hand into the shark's snout and twisted, forcing it to release its grip. The adrenaline pushed him forward as he shouted for help, his lungs burning and blood clouding the sea around him. Fellow swimmers rushed to his aid, forming a human chain to pull him toward the shore, while lifeguards sprinted into the surf with rescue boards. The scene was chaotic but heroic, a race against time to save a man from becoming another statistic in California's shark attack history. Unknown to Robles and about 14 other swimmers in the vicinity, they were in harm's way at the moment. As Robles swam by, he found himself in the shark's line of sight. Provoked by the hook in its mouth and the struggle it had been through, the 7-foot animal lunged at him, biting the right side of his chest. Robles managed to pry the shark off and was assisted to shore by fellow swimmers and a paddleboarder. Robles sustained a single bite wound on his right ribcage and injuries to his right hand, including a nicked artery and loss of sensation in his thumb. He was treated at Harbor UCLA Medical Center and released the following day. The incident led to a temporary closure of a mile-long stretch of the beach and a suspension of fishing from the Manhattan Beach Pier until July 8. Authorities noted that while the fisherman was targeting bat rays, not sharks, the presence of the hooked shark in a popular swimming area raised safety concerns. After his rescue and treatment, Robles explained his experience and encounter during the attack in an interview. Although he confessed to still feeling shaken up and traumatized, he is just glad to be alive. While explaining the encounter, he said the shark came right up to him and bit him on the chest. He had the good sense to grab the nose of the shark and pry himself out of its mouth in time before any major damage was done. Despite being an experienced swimmer, Robles just agreed that he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it was only by his swimming skills that he was able to sustain himself while he was being attacked. Despite the traumatic experience, Robles expressed gratitude for surviving the attack and for the assistance he received from the people around him. Number 5. USS Indianapolis. Do you know what's worse than a shark attack? Knowing that no one is coming to help you as you see sharks circling you. This was the fate of the crew members of the USS Indianapolis after the ship sank. Known as the worst shark attack in history, the men of the sunken ship were basically sitting ducks for the sharks as they prayed for rescue. On July 30, 1945, the USS Indianapolis, a heavy cruiser of the United States Navy, was torpedoed by a Japanese submarine in the Philippine Sea. The ship had just completed a top-secret mission delivering parts of the atomic bomb Little Boy to the island of Tinian. Shortly after midnight, 2 torpedoes struck the vessel, causing it to sink in just 12 minutes. The explosion ripped through the steel hull, splitting the cruiser in two as men were thrown violently into the dark waters. Panic ensued as hundreds of sailors struggled to stay afloat, clinging to debris while oil and fuel spread across the surface, creating a slick black sea that reeked of death. Some men were badly burned, others dazed and bleeding, while the cries for help echoed endlessly into the night. As dawn broke, the survivors could see fins slicing through the waves. The sharks had come. At first, they attacked the floating corpses, but soon they turned to the living. Men formed tight circles, kicking and splashing in desperation to fend them off, praying that someone, anyone, would spot them. The saltwater burned their wounds, and dehydration drove some to madness, forcing them to drink the seawater that ultimately killed them. Every few hours, screams pierced the silence as another man disappeared beneath the waves. The terror was relentless. The sharks seemed to hunt not for hunger but for sport. Even in their agony, the survivors tried to comfort one another, telling stories, sharing prayers, and holding hands as night fell again over the endless, merciless sea. Of the 1,195 crewmen on board, about 900 men survived the initial sinking, left floating in open water without lifeboats or enough food and water. What followed after that is seen as one of the worst naval disasters in U.S. history. The survivors were left exposed to the elements: burning sun, dehydration, saltwater poisoning, and most notoriously, relentless shark attacks. The ocean around them became a hunting ground for oceanic white-tip sharks, which fed on the dead and the dying. Over 4 terrifying days, several of the survivors were killed by shark attacks or succumbed to exposure. By the time help arrived on August 2nd, only 316 men were pulled from the water alive. But while the causes of death for the victims were numerous, about 150 men were victims of shark attacks after the ship crashed. Number 4. Outer Banks, North Carolina. What started out as an ordinary day with great weather turned horribly wrong when a captain and his crew made bad decisions involving a shark. On July 30, 2019, Rick Cotone, a charter boat captain, took some customers out to sea in North Carolina for a fishing expedition. The plan was to fish for some bluefish and Spanish mackerel. But when one of the passengers hooked in a blacktip shark, the crew decided to reel it on the boat instead of setting it free. Big mistake. The blacktip shark gets its name from the black markings that are usually seen on the tip of its fins. But the major danger is the fact that it can grow up to 7 or 8 feet long and usually attack humans unprovoked by mistaking a body part for a smaller prey. While it is normal for fishes and any other sea animal to thrash about when it is captured and reeled in, the passengers of this boat, as well as Rick himself, did not expect a literal attack on any of them. As the shark was reeled in from the water, it quickly latched onto Rick's leg and clamped down hard. With the timely intervention of another passenger on the boat, Rick's leg was quickly released from the grips of the shark's teeth, but not without some deep wounds on his right shin. After the ordeal, Rick mentioned that the shark was big enough that its mouth went all around his leg when it bit him. According to Rick, it would have taken his whole leg off if he had not had the good sense to push the head of the shark against the corner so it would not shake. Thankfully, he only got off with wounds that he made sure to disinfect right after the shark was pried away from him. When the other passenger brought the knife to Rick, he quickly stabbed the shark's head and back, causing it to loosen its grip on his leg. And after he got away, Rick asked for a Clorox bleach to clean the wound. In his words, there are lots of harmful bacteria in the mouths of sharks, and using bleach to clean the wound was the best option for Rick at the time. But despite the fact that Rick and his crew used bleach, the recommended solution for cleaning wounds caused by shark bites is soap and water. While bleach can kill the harmful bacteria from the wound, it also damages healthy tissue and good bacteria in the body. Plus, they irritate the skin, making the wound even more painful. As Rick discovered after, alcohols and mild cleaning solutions like hydrogen peroxide are also effective at cleaning shark bite wounds and preserving the skin. But these are not usually handy unless you pack for it on a fishing trip. At the end of the day, and a bad fishing experience, Rick could not decide which was worse, being bit by a shark or feeling more pain due to the bleach. Fortunately, he had a nurse look at the wound and fix him up even better. While Rick survived an attack from a species that is responsible for several attacks on humans every year, he ended the day with a nice meal prepared from the same shark that bit him. Number 3. Heather Boswell, 1994. The life of 19-year-old Heather Boswell would forever be altered on March 23, 1994, after she and her colleagues were attacked by a 15-foot-long shark. While the rest of the staff were unharmed, the same could not be said for Heather and another colleague on board the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration research ship Discoverer. Heather was on a 6-month work term when the ship stopped around 300 meters east of Easter Island. In a bid to relax and cool off, 9 of the crew members decided to go for a swim in the open water. With one person watching over the crew from the ship deck and another 3 crew members in a rigid inflatable boat, they all thought they were safe until disaster struck. The crew had been in the water for more than an hour when the shark stealthily appeared and someone yelled, "Shark!" Initially thinking it was a joke, the crew, including Heather, laughed it off. Seaman Phil Buffington was the first person to be attacked as the shark grabbed him by the right thigh. Buffington hit the shark on the head as it attacked him, and almost at the same time a second warning came up. The shark let go after attacking Buffington and then headed towards Heather. By the time the second warning came, the crew on the boat had begun to pick up the crew members in the water. They saw the shark submerge itself in the water behind Heather and then grabbed her by the ankle. The boat crew tried reaching out for Heather with a stick, but it was too late as the shark grabbed her once again on the right thigh and pulled her under the water. Heather fought the shark's hold on her leg and managed to break free. She reached for the broom handle the boat crew held out for her, only for the shark to make a comeback, this time going for her left thigh. It pulled her underwater once again and threw her back up close to the boat, and her colleagues grabbed her arms. For a brief moment, the crew were engaged in a tug-of-war with the shark over Heather before they pulled her onto the boat successfully. In the interview after she was rescued, Heather said she felt a pop when she was pulled onto the boat. While she prayed it was just her leg dislocating, Heather discovered the pop was actually the sound of her leg being bitten off by the shark. The shark in question was killed moments after by another crew member who fired repeatedly at it when he heard the announcement. Although Heather was initially unresponsive when she was pulled out of the water, she eventually came to, but to a reality that she had lost her leg forever. Buffington, on the other hand, got away only with deep gashes and no loss to any part of his body. Years after the attack, nothing much has changed as sharks still continue to see humans as prey. But that day would remain an unforgettable one for Heather. Number 2. Bethany Hamilton, Hawaii. In an inspiring twist of events, Bethany Hamilton transformed a traumatic encounter that left her permanently disabled into a lucrative one. On the 31st of October, 2003, 13-year-old Bethany had a run-in with a 14-foot-long tiger shark. In the morning of that day, Bethany and her best friend Alana had gone on a morning surf along Tunnels Beach in Kauai when she got attacked. She was lying stomach down on her surfboard, her left arm dangling in the water, when the shark approached with stealth and swiftly bit off her arm just below the shoulder. Thankfully, Alana and her father were close by, and they helped Bethany get back on shore after the attack. Witnesses later described how the crystal-clear morning surf had suddenly turned red as screams echoed across the water. Despite the chaos, Bethany remained calm, an astonishing show of courage for a 13-year-old. Paramedics who arrived at the scene were stunned that she was still conscious, speaking softly and asking if she'd be able to surf again. The community of Kauai rallied around her immediately, with neighbors donating blood and local churches organizing prayer circles. As news of the attack spread across the globe, Bethany's story became a symbol of human resilience and faith. Even while recovering in the hospital, she spoke with unwavering positivity, saying she believed God had a bigger plan for her life. Her composure under unimaginable pain became one of the most talked about aspects of her survival story, inspiring millions worldwide. Alana's father quickly made a tourniquet for the wound, wrapping it around the stump of the arm. By the time Bethany was rushed to the hospital, she was already in shock, having lost more than 60% of her blood. When word spread of the attack, a family of fishermen came forward with the pictures of a shark they had caught just a mile from the attack location. After measuring the dimensions of the teeth and the bite size of the shark and the bitten-off board of Bethany, police and investigators confirmed it was the same shark that had attacked Bethany. Talk about a quick karma situation. But while the story of Bethany is painful and sad, she didn't let it stop her. Just 1 month after her attack, Bethany went back to surfing and entered a major competition the following year in 2004. Due to her limitation, Bethany uses a custom board that is thicker and longer with a handle for her right hand. But even with all that, Bethany has learned to kick more when surfing due to the absence of her left hand. Her life, survival, and surfing career has inspired shows and books, and the original board plus swimsuit she wore when she was attacked are placed on display at the California Surf Museum. Number 1. Rodney Fox, Australia. After the survival of one man, a major invention came to reality. This will definitely go down in the biography of Rodney Fox, a famous Australian filmmaker and survivor of a shark attack. Born in 1940 in South Australia, Fox was exposed to fishing by his father from an early age. As a teenager, he would spend hours spearfishing, an act that paid off when he became the spear fishing champion in South Australia in 1962. On December 8, 1963, 23-year-old Fox was competing in the South Australian Spear Fishing Championship at Aldinga Beach, about 50 kilometers south of Adelaide, to defend his title when he was attacked. During the event, a great white shark, estimated to be around 15 feet long, attacked and bit Fox. It bit into his torso, causing severe injuries, including a punctured diaphragm, broken ribs, pierced scapula, exposed spleen, and a ripped open lung. Witnesses on the beach recalled seeing the water turn red as Fox fought to stay conscious, his shattered spear gun still clutched in his hand. Incredibly, despite his injuries, he managed to fend off the shark by striking its snout and gouging at its eyes, sheer instinct driving him to survive. When rescuers pulled him from the water, his wetsuit was shredded, and his ribs were visible through the torn neoprene. Doctors later said it was one of the worst shark attack cases ever survived, and his story made global headlines within days. Fox, lying in a hospital bed wrapped in bandages, vowed that he would never let fear of sharks control him again. Instead, he would devote his life to understanding the very creature that almost took his. This near-death experience transformed him from a victim into one of the world's leading advocates for shark conservation. No one would have expected Fox to survive the injuries he sustained because his suit had to stay on to keep his internal organs from spilling out. Despite the life-threatening injuries, Fox managed to surface and was rescued by fellow competitors and rushed to the hospital. He underwent extensive medical treatment, requiring 462 stitches. Remarkably, a piece of the shark's tooth remains embedded in his wrist to this day. Following his recovery, Fox became a pioneer in shark research and conservation. He designed the first underwater observation cage for diving with great white sharks and founded Rodney Fox Shark Expeditions years after his attack. And Fox has remained a significant figure. His work has significantly contributed to the understanding and preservation of these apex predators, as he has been involved in the production of over 200 movies about sharks. While he is still known as one of the miraculous survivors of shark attacks, Fox has certainly made a name for himself in the shark world. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.